insightful. Watching my channel. I hope everybody's good with it. Don't forget, you can subscribe to my channel, share, donate, and you can also donate via PayPal, which I'll try and put the link below. Before we get into it, I just want to use a piece of scripture very quickly, and then I'll go to what we really want to talk about. So, Paul, the apostle of Christ, in the book of Second Timothy, he's talking to Timothy, and he says, Apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, according to the promise of life, which is in Christ Jesus. He says, I put into you, Timothy, that you remember to stir up the gift of God that I put in you by laying on of my hands. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power and of love and of a sound mind. I'm going to stop right there. That's 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 6. All right. I'll come back to that. We're not supposed to be fearful of man. We're not supposed to. If the right thing is the right thing, then we shouldn't be afraid to do the right thing. Okay? So I'm going to come back to that when it comes to the Snyder Cut movement and also restore the SnyderVerse movement that we have going on. There are different people, different factions, different people have different things. People are trying to do power struggles. I see people, supposedly supporting Zack Snyder and his movies who are fighting with each other. So we want to get to that. But the first things first, as you see from the title, Zack Snyder was saying in an interview back in 2021, after I believe the Snyder Cut was launched, and everybody saw the Snyder Cut, it was a tremendous success. He was saying that Black Adam, yeah, he can fit into this universe. Absolutely. He was saying that there's a possibility of that. And that's interesting because, remember, the previous regime's direction was not to have Black Adam, refer the Justice League. Okay? Now remember, this is Zack Snyder speaking after Justice League, his version of Justice League came out. And Black Adam was not supposed to have anything to do with any member of the Justice League in terms of linking him to that. The movie was supposed to be a standalone. It was supposed to be the Justice Society of America in it, and Black Adam and the Justice Society of America was supposed to take on Sabak. That's what that movie was supposed to be shaped around. But now we see Amanda Waller in it, and Amanda Waller pulling in the Justice Society of America. And according to Sib Abdul and Mikey Sutton, that was not in the initial Black Adam movie, and that makes sense because, again, when we think about what's Armada and what he's been doing with his movies, he's trying to do more standalones, and he's trying to separate. You can see even Wonder Woman. He tried to have Wonder Woman in her own standalone. There was no reference. Even Aquaman. Aquaman had really no reference to the Justice League movie that just happened. There was no members of the Justice League in that. It was just a standalone. They kept it separate. It's just separate from it. If you think about all the SnyderVerse movies that we have seen so far, when I say SnyderVerse movies, I'm talking about movies such as Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, right? All of them had some reference to each other. Okay? Suicide Squad talked about Superman's death. We even seen a scene from BVS. We saw Batman v Superman refer to Man of Steel with the whole Dark Black Zero event. And the characters from Man of Steel were in there. And also, when we look at Wonder Woman referenced the picture, which was found in BVS, which she linked it to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne actually bringing the picture to her. Now, the 2017 Justice League movie really was just like total departure from BVS. It was not linked to BVS. It was linked to BVS. It was linked to BVS, and I even argued that it was linked to BVS. It was linked to BVS, But they sort of distanced it from BVS, and they chopped it up, right? Joss Whedon did a lot of reshoots of all kinds of things, and Thala was changed up and everything. Two things they wanted to do with that Justice League movie. One, they didn't really want to link it to BVS, and the second thing they didn't want to do, and tone-wise and otherwise, and also the other thing they didn't want to do was have it sort of have a cliffhanger at the end where you were looking for another movie. So those are two things they didn't want to do, and they didn't want Darkseid in there. That's why they had the New Gods thing. They didn't want none of that. So they tried to make it dead-ended and cut it off. Um, if maybe Henry Cavill's CGI wasn't so atrocious, I think they might have been able to bring forth a movie that was okay, right? Because at the end of the day, when I was defending the movie, I was saying, well, there's different directors. I didn't realize the whole entire movie was just terribly done. I didn't know, and I was running with a narrative which was wrong. It was erroneous. Um, but the point I'm making is that Justice League movie that happened, which was pretty atrocious, was a movie which Warner Brothers was trying to separate and distance themselves from the SnyderVerse. They were trying to distance BBS. They were trying to distance themselves. Well, not with Suicide Squad. They still referenced it, and with Wonder Woman, they still reference it. But they were trying to distance themselves from BBS. And Justice League, that was with their opportunity to turn it in a different direction. And so that's what they tried to do. And then after that, Aquaman never really referenced anything to do with Justice League or BBS, right? And then when you look at Shazam was the only movie. It's the only movie. If you look at all the other slate of movies in the DCEU, Shazam is the only movie that references BBS. David Sandberg religiously is like trying to refer. He's using a lot of what do you call those things? There's a lot of Easter eggs on BBS throughout Shazam. So David Sandberg intentionally, which said Shazam, and I guess the tone of Shazam was something that old regime liked. So they let him do whatever he wanted in Shazam, but he was referencing BBS religiously. Okay, religiously. Okay. Now, the point I'm making is that Black Adam, right? Zack Snyder in 2021 was talking about Black Adam being in his DCEU, the SnyderVerse DCEU. And my point is, all the movies from Aquaman, you exclude Shazam, from Aquaman to the present movies, except for I think James Gunn tried to refer. He didn't really refer to it because he didn't refer to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which the Suicide Squad came after Zack Snyder's Justice League. So he did not refer to Zack Snyder's Justice League. He just brought up Superman and that some dude, I can't remember his name, that Eldris Allen was fighting fought Superman and shot him or something. But quite frankly, no reference to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is the movie that should have come out. That was the canon. However, if we look at Shazam again, religiously, Shazam keeps on referring to Zack's version of Justice League. So Shazam referred to Batman v Superman, and then Shazam referred to Zack's version of Justice League in their trailers, and I guess in their movie, which tells me that David Sandberg is religiously following what Zack Snyder's blueprint is. He's building off of what Zack Snyder does, which is very interesting. Now, with reference to Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 84, we see no reference. In fact, there's a departure of Wonder Woman somewhat from the first movie we saw, and her value system even is kind of departed. And then the movie itself is just totally different to what we saw in the first Wonder Woman movie. And the first Wonder Woman movie, remember, was the SnyderVerse Wonder Woman movie. I do not consider Patty Jenkins, even though she said she believes that the SnyderVerse is canon, that Zack Snyder's BBS and so on is canon, and it's a departure from that. When we look at the Birds of Prey, it's supposed to be building off of the Suicide Squad, but it was the studio version of Suicide Squad. But nonetheless, it does not refer in any way to the SnyderVerse. It does not refer to Justice League, none of that stuff, right? So when you look at those other movies, which are standalone movies, but still, you see that these movies, Walter Amato was moving away from the SnyderVerse. This is the point behind it. And the Flash movie was supposed to completely erase the SnyderVerse and bring something else in, basically going into a different universe, if you want to call it that. Now, here's the thing that has happened. Black Adam, first of all, we see the Suicide Squad in there, but again, James Gunn had the Suicide Squad in there, so you could say, well, is James Gunn's universe really part of the DCEU? Maybe, maybe not. But what we do know is Amanda Waller was in there, and Amanda Waller wasn't in there before. But point number two: if Henry Cavill shows up in Black Adam, which is more than likely going to happen, then that means that we're not just talking about the possibility of Black Adam being tied to the DCEU, but now we are talking about the Black Adam being a part of the SnyderVerse. Because we had the DCEU all along. You know, Harley Quinn was in the DCEU, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Wonder Woman 84. This is all supposedly part of the DCEU, right? But the SnyderVerse, particularly, how Zack Snyder was doing his movies, how the movies were interlinked, that's different. And so Henry Cavill showing up in Black Adam, even though that wasn't the intention of Walter Amada and the previous regime, even Jeff Johns possibly, tells us that we're looking at Zack Snyder, what Zack Snyder is saying about Black Adam being able to fit into the DC. That kind of complements his statement. You see? Oops. Hold on one second. I forgot to plug in my phone. Now, I know Sil Abdul would talk about, you know, I didn't get to really watch Sil and Mikey Sutton's videos yet. I haven't been able to go and watch their recent video on the JSA. But you've got to understand, Black Adam had its own Justice League, right? They had the Justice Society of America. That was supposed to replace the Justice League that we know, right? And then Batgirl would have replaced Batman. Supergirl would have replaced Superman. As you know, if you guys know anything about Zod Ryder, he was kind of proposing that on Twitter. It makes sense. That's why I'm going with it. And then think about this. You know, there was a headline just recently where Andy Muschietti was earmarked to direct Justice League 2, right? Well, this Justice League 2 was going to reset the universe. It was not going to be the same members of the Justice League. And it may not have been the same universe, wouldn't have been the same universe as where we are. It was supposed to shift into Batman's universe, which would have been Michael Keaton's Batman's universe, right? And then they were going to build off of that in that universe. Okay? And very interestingly enough, and what I think is interesting at least, is they were looking at bringing out new characters, you know, Blue Beetle and all these guys. And then the Justice Society of America would have been like that Justice League, and then everybody would have come together to fight whoever the big baddie would have been, whether it's Shazam or whoever it would have been. So the idea was it was going to shift across. Walter Amada was trying to do other characters and introduce other people for the big clash up. So they were trying to shift away from what Henry Cavill and they were doing. Now, that is not the case now. So when we look at JSA, you see, how I understand it, I haven't read anything or anything. I'm just talking out how I understand it when I start putting two and two together, and from what different people have been saying. Andy Muschietti, yeah, he probably would have done Justice League 2, maybe, because he's the guy that would have done the shifting. So he probably would have taken on Justice League 2, maybe. Because the characters that he had introduced and then other characters that are now being formulated would have formed this new alternate Justice League sort of society thing to fight the big baddie, whoever that would have been. But here's the thing that I'm going to say, which tells us this is course correction. And I got a bunch of things to say, like I said before. And one of the things is God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, of soundness of mind, okay? So I'm going to go into all of that because we, as the movement, need to understand and have it crystal clear what our objective is. And our objective is to see Zack Snyder back in DC doing a Justice League 2. That is our goal. That is how we restore the Snyderverse. The big bang up, the big clash, the big assembly is Justice League 2. Right? That's what we're working towards. And then 3. Okay? That's working towards. That's what we want. Okay? Now, you have to understand, if you're not focused on that, I don't care what else they could say in the fandom. They're going to say all kinds of things in the fandom. Our focus is on Zack Snyder returning. That's why we say restore the SnyderVerse. You can't have the SnyderVerse if you don't have Snyder, right? You can't have it. So our focus is on having Zack Snyder return to do Justice League 2 and Justice League 3. In the process, there are certain movies that sort of will restore the SnyderVerse and show goodwill towards that, such as releasing the Air Cut, such as Zack Snyder's Justice League getting into theaters, such as Ben Affleck's Batman movie coming out. That's what the Snyder Cut pointed to. It was one of the possible things that should have happened. So Ben Affleck needs to get his Batman movie. Now, what do we know about David Zaslav? He's pushing Ben Affleck's Batman. Ben Affleck's Batman is in now 2 of the 4 movies that are to come out that were from the previous regime, Walter Hamada. Ben Affleck is in 2 of them. And what is so critical about that is Ben Affleck was supposed to be in one of them, and that was supposed to be it. He wasn't supposed to show up in another movie. He's showing up not only in the Flash movie, but also in the Aquaman movie. Another thing that's very important for us to remember and keep it in the back of our minds, and Sil and Mikey Sutton been telling us this, and I don't go on everything that Sil and Mikey Sutton does, but I want to say I think they're a very reliable source. One of the things that Sil and Mikey Sutton said to us, which is very important for us to remember, is that there are major reshoots. Black Adam had reshoots since last year. They started, even when the merger was still being done. There was reshoots being done to Black Adam and changing it up and polishing it up. Okay? And they let Black Adam, there was DC fandom, we saw a little glimpse of Black Adam, and then we saw a little teaser, and then for SDCC, the second trailer of Black Adam came out. First of all, people were disappointed Henry Cavill didn't show up there. And secondly, the trailer, really, they were trying to push jokes, and they was trying to make it a jokey movie, and that was the slant Hamada was doing. That's the last Hamada, and it backfired majorly. Now, the most recent trailer that came out with Black Adam has got some people excited. Am I excited for Black Adam? Absolutely not. I'm not excited for it, okay? I'm not. I'm just being real with you guys. I'm not excited for it. Am I interested in it? Absolutely. I'm interested in it for many different reasons, but I'm interested in it. Now, if you've ever studied Black Adam as a character and so on, which I have not, Sabak is the main villain we know in this movie. We know that the Justice Society will have to team up with Black Adam some way, somehow, and they're going to have to fight Sabak. And it's going to be a major sort of, really, as you can see, there's a lot of carnage and there's a lot of destruction that will happen in that movie. But Black Adam doesn't care. He's not a hero. He told you that. He's not a hero. He's not trying to be a hero. He's not trying to, just save the day. He's about a lot of other things, right? The trailer told you that. So he's not really trying to be a good person. He's not trying to be morally sound and all of that, right? And even in the DC Super Pets, if you ever even watched any little iteration of DC Super Pets, you would realize Black Adam is not really, he doesn't care about rules and that kind of stuff, right? He's a villain, basically. But they call him an anti-hero or whatever. But the point is, the tone of Black Adam changed. What they were putting in the trailers, the tone changed. So they're trying to polish up that movie as best as they can so they can get a blockbuster hit. Zaslav and the rest of the DC and DC, Warner Brothers, Discovery, they're trying to make this movie a hit. But it's clear to me, if there's one thing I'm very clear on, is David Zaslav is pushing for Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman to be at the forefront of DC. They don't like the plan that Walter Hamada has because it's not making money. Okay, it's not making money. It's not bringing any returns. So Superman, Batman, and when we talk about Superman, we're not talking about Tyler Luckman. We're not talking about some new Superman. We're talking about Henry Cavill's Superman. We're talking about Ben Affleck's Batman. We're talking about Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. And now, by extension, we also know Jason Momoa's Aquaman. He mentioned him. And now we see also a push by HBO Max and so on to also, well, clearly Ezra Miller Flash, they want him. Okay, they want to retain Ezra Miller as Flash. So Ezra Miller is still starring in the Flash movie, so he's going to be there. And of course, the one that we don't hear about much is Ray Fisher as Cyborg, but we see now hints that Ray Fisher is being pushed because now we see Ray Fisher in HBO Max's little icon emoji thing, whatever you want to call it, right? So he's being pushed. We haven't seen other elements being pushed, but that's not the point. Okay, when we talk about Martian Manhunter, we're not seeing him being pushed. We're not seeing Green Lantern being pushed, right? And those are two other factors that have to be factored in, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But the point is, these main characters who were the core, and basically the characters that we were looking at for the first Justice League movie, which was 6 characters: Henry Cavill's Superman, Ben Affleck's Batman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Ezra Miller's Flash, Ray Fisher's Cyborg, and Jason Momoa's Aquaman. They're being pushed. Okay? Also, you will notice a number of things. And these things are very important for us to look at, which is that the movements have been to clean up what was happening before and push forward. Now, some people are saying that the Flash movie, will reset everything, and so we'll forget about the past Justice League and stuff. No. It's clear to me, the people who have been consistent over this period of time. I'm going to tell you the people who have been consistent over this period of time when it comes to supporting the SnyderVerse. David Sandberg. Say what you want about him. Say what you want about his movies. He's been very consistent with the SnyderVerse. Okay? The other person who has been very consistent with the SnyderVerse are basically the actors and the people who have been vocal about it. Ray Fisher, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill. He wasn't super vocal about it, but coming down to the end, he's the guy that actually was there. He was present. Superman, who started the SnyderVerse, who started the DCEU, he was present when Zack Snyder announced that the Snyder Cut was being released. And all hell broke loose. The most important person was Superman. Superman had to be there because Superman is the start of all comic book movies, all superhero movies. Superman is the start of the DCEU. Superman is so pivotal, and that's why I keep him as an icon. Superman is the beginning. Okay, just like how Jesus Christ is the beginning. They call him the Alpha and Omega. They call him the beginning and the end. Similarly, Superman, when we talk about modern lore, modern mythos, modern comic book mythos, we're talking about Superman. Okay? Henry Cavill's Superman was there to launch the Release the Snyder Cut campaign fully and close the door. And he was there for the end. He was there for when the Snyder Cut was to be released. The beginning, the Alpha and Omega. Now, here is the very important point that I want to make and stress, right? And I've taken 23 minutes and 38 seconds to do all of this, which I really wanted the video to be shorter, but I guess I'm a slow burn kind of guy. Very important, I believe, for us to always bear in mind. Listen, guys, as much as I talk so positively, I want you guys to continuously and relentlessly and do not stop. I want you to beat down the gates of hell if you have to. Bang down. I want you to relent. In fact, if the guys who organize things, Jarrell, the different people on Twitter who push for the Snyder Cut cause, I want you guys to put it in high gear. Intensify your request to restore the SnyderVerse. I know everything is pointing towards that, it seems. But we cannot let up now. We've got to beat down on those gates until they're flattened. And we have to keep on relentlessly requesting that the SnyderVerse be restored. So that there is no doubt for the people who are responsible, there's no doubt in their minds that the SnyderVerse is what we want. And what is the SnyderVerse? It is the ancillary movies that build up to Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Okay, so SnyderVerse is Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. It's a Suicide Squad air cut, not Suicide Squad Studios movie, even though that's part of the Snyderverse still, sort of. It's also Wonder Woman. It's Aquaman. It's Shazam. Shazam is part of the Snyderverse because David Sandberg. Well, whether you like it or not, David Sandberg references the Snyderverse. Now, is it Snyderverse? No, it's not Snyderverse. The Snyderverse really went up to Wonder Woman movie, right? So the Snyderverse was Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and then Wonder Woman, right? That's the Snyderverse, really. And then it kind of went its own way. But Aquaman is part of the Snyderverse because James Wan was one of the original directors, so it is part of the Snyderverse as well, even though it was touched up and altered a bit, okay? Which is okay. It's cool. That was James Wan's movie anyway. So, and I told you guys, they Marvelized it. I told you that, but y'all was watching at me, no. And I said, I ain't watching no Aquaman, right? I said that. But they Marvelized it. I still haven't watched, I've never watched fully Aquaman. I have not, okay? I don't think I ever will. But it is what it is. So, James Wan, Shazam, even though Shazam is produced by New Line Cinema, I believe, the director is a director that follows the Snyderverse. You notice he brings that connectivity to Snyderverse. David Sandberg has relentlessly done that. Okay? So I just want to make that clear. Okay, now, with reference to the rest of the movies that came afterwards, I don't know what was going on there. They are absolutely not the Snyderverse. You can stop the Snyderverse, really, like I said, after Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman, really, the first 5 movies were the Snyderverse. Aquaman, you can debate that. Shazam, you could debate that because it was a different regime they were under, and changes were made to Aquaman. Now, this is important to make. Everybody's protesting the changes to what David Zaslav is doing to movies, or they're trying to say that this new regime has no plan. They have no 10-year plan and stuff. And still went into this in detail, so I don't need to go into it in detail, but I just wanted to say this. I want to get my thoughts out there, if it's okay with everybody. One of my thoughts out there is this, that didn't they change up Zack Snyder's Justice League radically? The 80-something% of the movie was changed, right? Besides the people who, I wasn't even a part of it at first, the people who were protesting that and what they saw in the cinema was just terrible, right? Because the changes weren't for the better, it was for the worse, right? Besides them, everybody else never protested that. They didn't protest it. It was a select set of people who started protesting. I came on board later. I came on board when I saw the DVD, extra footage, bonus footage, where Superman was walking through. Clark Kent was walking through the Kryptonian ship, and then he picks up the suit, and then we see him in the new suit, and we see him going to Alfred, and I was like, what the flippin' hell? That's when I realized Warner Brothers two-timed me, right? I mean, I should have seen it, but I was trying to defend. I was in defensive mode. And I saw the writing on the wall, but I was so blind because I was trying to defend Warner Brothers because I thought it was Warner Brothers that everybody was attacking. And it wasn't, because I was a DC fan and I was trying to support the studio. So I was very blind and very stupid to it. And now I look back at it, I said, okay, it is what it is. They hoodwinked me. And I know a lot of fans don't want to get hoodwinked by this present regime as well. They're very skeptical of them because not only did that regime, Toby Emmerich, and they lied to us. I mean, they comprehensively lied to us about the script and everything, and made the actors lie. And then there's a lot of ugly things happening in the background. So I understand. But what I'm saying is that if you look at the action so far, they look like they're supporting it. And it looks like we're really going to get what we want to get. And I'm so glad that they did a sleeper behind Jason Keelar and all those guys, and AT&T made a deal with Discovery, because if it wasn't for that, man, this shit would have gone down the tubes. Now people are happy that the former regime is gone. All right, that the former regime is gone, and I'm gonna say this: that's cool. But if this regime don't step up to the plate and do what the fans really want to see, then what good is it? What good is it, right? We're just back to square one. So let's see. And the proof is in the pudding. I'm going to see Black Adam for the reason that I'm looking to see if Henry Cavill's there. And I think this universally, all of us in the Snyder Cut movie is looking for. But that's not my point. My point is, the former regime, they made changes to Justice League outside of the Snyder Cut fandom. Hold on one second. Okay, outside of the Snyder Cut fandom, right? Nobody else was really picking up the charge. And we were seeing a strange and weird when I even joined the thing, and people were saying this, the Snyder Cut doesn't exist and stuff. And some people in the fandom, like myself, were saying, I don't think this is the ultimate cut. This is the thing with the movie. And then I got converted to everybody because I felt like a fool when I realized I'd been hoodwinked. And it was a tremendous outrage within the community. And so they were alone. We were alone for a very long time. You guys know that. We've been called all kinds of names, right? We've been called all kinds of things, toxic, whatever, because we are standing up and we're saying, no, this is not true. And then we're pointing out people who are hypocritical, and we're pointing out people who are lying, and we were trying to build a case for it. And in the process, we're also looking at AF's, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Feeding America. We were having competitions, there are competitions still going on for Rebel Moon. If you guys want to do the creature. I think there's 9 days left or 8 days left now. So the point behind it is that we were pushing for this Snyder Cut, right? And no, the media and everybody was against us. Everybody was against us, and still to this day there are elements which are against us, right? Jay Oliver defended whatever her name is. I forgot what her name is. Gail, whatever her name is. Gail Simone, whatever her name is on Twitter. And I personally think that she's atrocious. I think she's atrocious. And, they're talking about her trolling, but be honest with you, most of the people inside of fandom think she's atrocious because she's taking a position of power, and she just keeps on trying to attack a fellow creative, and on top of that, she's also attacking the fandom. Which why? Why are you picking a fight with the fandom? Because you think it's a fad? You think it's a style? You think that Hollywood should be able to attack fans? None of this ever makes sense to me. When some fans have been atrocious and they've been terrible and they've attacked actors and people. I've seen it, but while those fans are present in almost any fandom, that's so less likely than with Snyder Cut fans. Snyder Cut fans and Snyder fans and Restore the SnyderVerse fans have been more than reasonable, and we've been debating and arguing with people things, and so to call us atrocious when we've had fans that had death threatened people and stuff like that. But Snyder Cut fans are not that. they painted us with a picture that we were Nazis or we are Trump supporters or some kind of thing like that. That we are aligned with communism or some kind of crazy shit like that, right? They tried to say that Zack Snyder, some really evil stuff again. That the Ayn Rand thing, he believes that theology and just some weird, whack, out there stuff, right? They've been saying about us. They call us butts, all kinds of things. And then Warner Brothers itself, and Sarnoff with Warner Brothers, she entertained that notion. Instead of really trying to paint the fans in a good picture, she tried to use whatever the reporter was couching it. Instead of diffusing the situation, she made it even worse. So I'm just saying that former regime, and then the things the former regime did, and the tongue-in-cheek kind of way they moved, and the vicious way that they moved with their programs and stuff, how they tried to make fun of Henry Cavill on his birthday and put out, their Justice League version, say that SnyderVerse wasn't canon, Snyder Cut wasn't canon, and so on and so on. I mean, they had their plans, but I mean, some of it was just vicious and just not cool at all. And we're the bad guys? Come on, man. So anyway, back to what I'm saying. So they didn't want that. Now, they made changes. The changes were atrocious. People came to realize that later down the road. But no one was protesting it at the time except for Snyder Cut fans. Let's speed up to this time. David Zaslav making big changes, right? Now all the stuff that they cut out, Snyder Cut was cut out. Remember that? We were supposed to have Ben Affleck's Batman. That never happened, right? All these things this former regime was doing, a lot of the people wouldn't have a problem with it, right? Now, David Zaslav one day, they cut Batgirl, cut some CW shows, cleaned out house with things like the Aquaman, Jokey show, whatever, because they think it'll hurt the brand. And because they think those shows are hurting the brand, also it's not the direction they want to go in. They have a different direction they want to go in. All of a sudden, those things will move out the window. People protesting that, right? Who? The media houses and those kinds of people. But when we think about it, why are they protesting? Why do they not want David Zaslav to succeed? Why is it that the media tries to do anti-David Zaslav things? Because they know David Zaslav is looking to restore the SnyderVerse. That's the truth. That's the truth. And David Zaslav has a 10-year plan because David Zaslav, when he moved into the company very quickly, he started talking to different people, former and present. He wanted an effective plan. He wanted to move that effective plan immediately. Okay? And so the guy's not playing around. He's serious about what he's doing. And he sounds that way. And he's going to do it his way. So all I'm saying, though, is if he's mindful of what we're saying, which he probably is, because it seems as though he's lined up with us in two different ways. One, we want the big trinity. We want to see Superman on the screen. We want to see Batman on the screen. We want to see Wonder Woman on the screen. But, like David Zaslav said so correctly, we want a Wonder Woman movie better than the first Wonder Woman movie. We don't want something like Wonder Woman 84. Zaslav said that. What is that, David Zaslav? Now watch the tone of the movie coming out. Black Adam. Look at the recent trailer coming out. What do we realize? The tone has changed. They're not going for jokes. They're not trying to be funny. The last set of movies we've had, whether it's Suicide Squad, whether it's Wonder Woman 84, whether it's Birds of Prey, whether it was Shazam, whether it was Aquaman, whether it was Justice League, they were trying to pitch these films with jokes in the trailers. Right? I just push people and run away. Right? So, and then in the movies they have jokes. So what I'm saying is, if you look at Zack Snyder's Justice League, there's not a whole bunch of jokes in it. Because storytelling doesn't have to have, like Marvel formula, jokes and then emotional element and then jokes. It doesn't need to be that way. Now, Marvel's good at doing that. Good for them. I hate those movies most of the time, unless it's organic and genuine. Most of those movies feel manufactured and just weird and Hollywood, in my opinion. So I hate those movies. I hate when they just throw jokes all around, and then they have a serious moment, and then they're jokes again. I hate that. Okay? But my point is, and the characters don't take themselves too seriously. I hate that. But with the respect to Black Adam, doesn't look that way. Now it looks different. Okay? The slant seems to be different. And I hope it stays that way. When I go watch the movie, if it's in that kind of tone, then I know for a fact. We are on course to restoring the Snyderverse. Justice League 2, that team up movie that David Zack was talking about, the team up, they finally team up. I'm telling you, man, this ain't no reset. This is not no reset. It's going to be, of course, the plan's not going to be, the Snyderverse plan is not going to be what it was going to be, obviously. Right? We were hearing about Final Crisis. Maybe it's something like that. Whatever. But ultimately, in the end, what I can tell you is we're heading that direction. That's what it looks like. But confirmation is always important. So let's see what happens with the Black Adam movie. Now, if we don't see no Henry Cavill in the Black Adam movie at all, and we don't see any semblance of the Justice League, because it's context. It's not just Henry Cavill showing up in the movie. Of course, we don't want that. The Shazam thing that happened with Shazam, where Superman, ended up eating lunch with a kid and is a headless Superman, all of that. We don't want to see that with this movie. And I don't think so. I think it's going to be a situation that will happen. And I do believe the situation involves the Justice League, not just Superman. Because the Justice League is busy doing things. Black Adam's not the only guy around doing stuff, but the Justice League has to be busy doing something, and somehow their paths cross. That's what I think is going to happen. So I'm looking forward to that. Black Adam, 5,000 years ago again. We're talking about 5,000 years ago. Black Adam, this is where he kind of got born and stuff. 5,000 years ago, guess what was happening to? We had Wonder Woman coming to be born, right? 5,000 years ago, we had the Great War, and so on and so on. Actually, Wonder Woman was 800 years ago. So the Great War was 5,000 years ago. So that leads to a question, though. What was going on in Gondor? Why they didn't end up participating in the Great War? All of these questions are great questions to ask. So maybe we get the answers, maybe we don't get the answers, we'll see. But it does lead to a lot of interesting things and a lot of interesting conversation, and that's the important thing. Now, maybe a representative from Gondor did go. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. What I do know is that my point is, and we're going on 42 minutes. I'm going to try and wrap it up before 15 minutes come. My point is that, one, Zack Snyder was speaking about the possibility of Black Adam being in the DCEU, but not just the DCEU now, the Snyderverse. Two, we know that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did a picture. They wanted a picture of him, Black Adam, being smashed by Superman. There's a picture of that. Three, Henry Cavill's with the same manager as Black Adam, as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Four, the tone of Black Adam has changed. Five, we realize that there's a movement away, it seems, because of what David Zack is doing, from just not associating with the Justice League. So now, after the Justice League movie, where Zack Snyder was entertaining the notion that Black Adam could be associated with the Justice League and the DCEU, he was entertaining that notion. Amada and company didn't care about it. Now that notion is being reintroduced because, one, Ben Affleck is now in the Flash, and then he's going to be in the Aquaman movie. But if listen to me carefully, because the one cog in the wheel was what the Shazam director, David Sandberg, was doing. He's smart. David Sandberg was a smart dude. They was letting him do whatever he wanted, and because of that, he connected. The only director, he connected Shazam to Superman and Batman. He connected them, right? Because, of course, Superman is Shazam's hero, right? Not Shazam, Billy Batson, right? Not Billy Batson. Billy Batson's Shazam. I mean, the other one. So anyway, the point is that he's the only guy, like I said before, very consistent. He connected, and he's consistent. Shazam 2 is going to have him connecting again, bringing reference to that. Okay, fine. So anyway, the point is, he wasn't bringing up these characters. These characters never showed up in any of the movies. None of them. Right? We did have Superman or Batman. No reference to Superman or Batman or Bruce Wayne or Clark Kent in any of those slate of movies. Right? Except for David Sandberg's Shazam. All right? Right. And if you look, the only movies that made a profit are David Sandberg's Shazam under Walter Hamada's regime, David Sandberg's Shazam, and Aquaman. And Aquaman made a profit not because the movie referenced the SnyderVerse. It didn't reference the SnyderVerse at all. It continued where Aquaman left off going to his dad in the SnyderVerse. But Jason Momoa was very vocal about having the Snyder Cut come out. Very vocal about it. And campaigned with everybody for that to happen. You know, in his own way. So, and also supported Ray Fisher and what happened on the set. And that's very important to understand because Jason Momoa, that's why people supported that film, because Jason Momoa supported the Snyder Cut and the Snyder Cut movement. People supported his film. Of course, James Wan big in China and all of that too, and a great action director. But that's why. And then Shazam was connecting itself. The movie itself is the only movie under Walter Hamada. His whole entire regime is the only movie that connects itself directly to the SnyderVerse. And we're talking Batman and Superman, right? No other movie does that. Not even the Suicide Squad. And the point I'm making is there was no connectivity to those things. They were doing their own thing. They was in the DCU, but they were doing their own thing. But now, if Black Adam is connecting not just the Superman, but the Justice League. The Justice League, not just the Justice. See, the Justice Society of America is one thing. But these people live in a world where there is the Justice League. The Justice League exists in this world because they're in that world, because Amanda Waller's in that world, right? And Amanda Waller's in the same world as Superman. So it's very important that not just Superman show up, but whatever situation it is representative of the Justice League. So even if Black Adam meets Superman, it's important because you see, the Justice League, listen to me carefully now. If the Justice League, because remember, the Flash is coming up, it's supposed to follow up off of the Justice League movie, right? If the Justice League is mentioned or hinted in, or at the end or wherever it is in Black Adam movie, we're cooking. We're cooking. Can't just be Superman. It has to be the Justice League. Further, Andrew Muschietti's The Flash that's coming out. Now I saw that like some cartoon thing they got up on Twitter there with The Flash. I guess it's a prequel to the Flash movie. And the prequel, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have mixed feelings about that prequel, right? That prequel, the prequel looks like crap, okay? I'll just be honest. Some people are wanting to associate with the prequel and stuff, but I can't be positive about that prequel. It's crap, Again, I'm just being real with people, right? I didn't watch, I could go and check out the Flash prequel and look at it and read it through, but I'm not even interested in reading the prequel too. See, you got to understand, there's a certain kind of movie I'm not interested in. That's just my personal taste. I like things that make sense. They're somewhat realistic, And that Flash prequel looked like it's crap. So I'm not interested in watching it. Like I said, I'm not really excited for these movies. I'm not excited for the Flash movie. I'm not excited for Shazam. I'm not excited for Black Adam. And I'm not excited for Aquaman. I'm just being real with you guys. And the reason I'm not excited for these movies is because the people who were behind producing these movies were trying to move away from the SnyderVerse. And then it wasn't just about action or anything like that. It's just the movies didn't hype me. I didn't feel hyped for them. Anyway, just about less than a minute to go. So all I want to say to you guys is, bottom line, Zack Snyder showing that he's willing to include Black Adam and he sees it working inside of the SnyderVerse. And he said that since last year. We know that Zack Snyder had talks with David Zaslav. Okay, we know that. And I guess the 10-year plan may revolve around that because of that. Also, like I said before, no mention of the Justice League, no showing up of Justice League members in any of the movies we've seen. There's a reference to it with Sandberg's movie, but other than that, none of Walter Amada's movies refer to it, and I believe Doc Adams was self-contained as well. It looked like the Walter Amada, Tony Emmerich, and Sarnoff regime was really going to push a new type of Justice League, and the Justice League was going to phase that out. And it looks now like David Zaslav is trying to phase that same Justice League back in. Now, some people feel it's going to be totally different stories or whatever, but here's the thing. SnyderVerse, meaning Zack Snyder comes back to do Justice League 2. Now, Mikey Sutton talked about Man of Steel, or not Man of Steel, but a Superman movie, and Zack directing it. I don't know. Maybe there's talks like that in Hollywood and stuff. We will see. But I just want to see these movies happen. And I want to see particularly Justice League 2 happen with the actors that are there. I don't want no different director. I don't want no Zack Snyder doing Justice League 2. Zack Snyder does it like Zack Snyder. Also, another thing that's very interesting about the DCEU, I've noticed, is they've copied a certain style. The DCU has a certain style. There's some slow-mo in it to slow down the characters. Even when you look at Black Adam, people are talking about how it's so similar to Man of Steel, but if you think about it, Birds of Prey also had slow-mo in it. And some spectacular stunts and action, okay? Wonder Woman had slow-mo in it. Think about it now. There's a style to the DCEU, okay? I don't know for the Suicide Squad. I believe it had slow-mo in it as well. So there's a style that Zack Snyder started that has been carried throughout the DCU. Aquaman, same thing. Black Adam obviously is as powerful as Superman. It's just that he's got magical powers. Shazam never showed that parallel, but Shazam is also supposed to have super speed, and he does have some super speed, right? They've kind of showed it on display a little bit. So Shazam has super speed. Black Adam has super speed. Superman has super speed. So you expect them to have super speed. Okay? But it's interesting how the Black Adam movie is being done. Like you see the imagery, again, it's kind of Zack Snyder-ish imagery. Seems to be going through all of these movies. Now, here's the thing I want to say as well. And this has been consistent with the DCE. But the thing I want to say is, you can't be borrowing this man's imagery and all the stuff he's doing, and you're not acknowledging this man. What I mean by that is, you're trying to emulate what his stunt people and his people do. No problem with that, but you don't want to give the man credit. You got to give the man credit for what he's doing. You know what I mean? So if you're using his imagery, you're using his kind of stunts and this kind of thing, at least you're trying to do it. I'm not saying you're doing it successfully. My point is that basically, if you're trying to copy the dude, why not just bring the dude in? And then let the directors do their thing, however they want to do their movies. You know what I mean? So that's my point. So, bottom line, like I said before, it looks, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, and we will see if Henry Cavill's in Black Adam. Now, if Henry Cavill's not in Black Adam, guess what? Nothing changes. Restore the Snyderverse. Now, we talked about God give us a spirit, not a spirit of fear, but of love and soundness of mind, right? We cannot be fearful as Restore the Snyderverse fans. We're supposed to push through, speak for truth, and point out where there lies in deceptions. Period. Doesn't matter what people call us. It doesn't matter what they do. We must stay consistent to that. Jay Oliver was defending whatever the woman's name is. I can't remember. Gail Simone. And he was also saying that there's some toxic fans in the Snyderverse, in the Restore Snyderverse campaign. Listen to me carefully. We've heard this before, and I guess Jay is getting swayed by certain people. But at the end of the day, we stay the course. We don't care what people want to say. It could be people in the fandom who've changed their minds and started to talk like this. Whatever. We have to stay consistent, and we have to be unafraid and unabashed to call out the truth when it needs to be called out, and to show when there lies and call them out. All right? We've been through this. So for people to want to, after all of that, And after all we've done as fans, to want to call us and label us toxic, that's on them. We keep pressing forward, and once we get what we want, that's what is important. We got the Snyder Cut, people. We keep it going. Now, people can watch whatever they want. Okay? So if, say, for example, a friend of mine said, I was going to watch the Batman. I was like, cool. And if he says, are you going to watch the Batman? I say, no, I'm not watching the Batman. Sorry, not watching that movie. Then the guy turns around and says to me, why? I say, well, I can't in good conscience do that when I know Ben Affleck was supposed to have the Batman movie. And this is another guy who Jeff Johns circumvented Ben Affleck and made this movie. I can't do that in good conscience. I need to see the Batman first. And then maybe I'll go and watch Matt Reeves' movie. And I know Matt Reeves is a good director. I'm not boycotting anything. It's just that I personally, I can't do that in good conscience. I can't go support something that I know was a double cross to another guy. I can't do it. So I'm not telling people to boycott anything. That makes no sense. I don't believe in that, right? People are free to watch whatever they want to watch, right? I'm not telling nobody to boycott nothing. But if I'm not interested or I'm not remotely interested in a movie, I'm not going to go see it. I'm a consumer. You can't make me go see a movie I don't want to see, right? And that's what happened. It's not that these movies, people said, oh, why are we just going to boycott this movie? We don't care. No. Most of the time, it wasn't interesting enough to go see it. Why? Because some of the movies that came out in COVID, people went and saw it. And they did well. Maybe not as well as they usually do, but they did well. Why? Because people were interested. You got to at least be interested. You may not be excited, but at least you be interested. I'm going to go see Black Adam. I'm going to go see it. Now, I was excited for it once upon a time. Then I lost my excitement completely. So I'm not excited for it. I'm not excited to see Black Adam. Especially after everything that happened in SDCC and how the former regime was treating fans and everything. You know, it just, it left a bitter taste in my mouth. And still, the former regime has a part to play in this movie coming out. But we know that the present regime has changed up things in there. They don't want movies that not gonna make no money. Okay? And so we felt the tonal shift. Now some people like it. Some people buying it. Some people are cool with it. Now, there are Snyder Cut fans, or SnyderVerse fans, as I say, or Snyder fans, whatever you want to call them, who are saying that the people who say, I'm going to go watch Black Adam, we're like we're against restoring the SnyderVerse, because if Black Adam does well, then they won't have the SnyderVerse. That's ridiculous, because Black Adam is not Superman. Black Adam is not Batman. Black Adam is not Wonder Woman. He's not. What I'm saying is David Zack laid down the blueprint. He said Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. They're not going to change their plans. They got a 10-year plan built around those guys. So if Black Adam does well, that's even better for Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And the Justice League. Y'all got to understand that. Because now he got a part in that movie. He going to be in that movie. He going to be in Justice League too, for sure. That's what it means. That's a plus. Also, another point. Another point is this. Shazam is definitely going to be in the Justice League team up. Obviously. Just he got to be there. So Zack Snyder knows that. That's why we're not getting the Justice League 2 that you saw in the exhibition. You're not going to get that. You can get something, maybe like it. Maybe. Zack Snyder might give you something totally different. Might give you Final Crisis. He might give you something else. All right? But what I can tell you is, because you saw him, he had the Final Crisis book there, and he had to cook turkey, and he was saying, it ain't fully cooked yet. Right? All right, then. So he's coming with something. He's coming with something. It's going to be good. All right? It's going to be good. So, but my point is, and it will still have that evil Superman and all that. Whatever it's coming with, it has to have continuity with what he has before. But it's going to be nicely cooked, man. It's going to be something good. But my point is, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. That's what David Zaslav is about. Them guys. It don't matter if Black Adam makes $2 billion. David Zaslav is still gonna focus on Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. He's staying focused on that. The 10-year plan, they got a 10-year plan. If they have a 10-year plan, they got something there. And they working with it. So they know what they're doing. That means they have consulted people and they're rolling out. But you got to roll out these 4 films first, right? So Black Adam's coming out. But guess what? Black Adam can't just be self-contained. I don't care how much. You got to refer to the Justice League. That's what David Zaslav is going to do. Look at the pattern. The Flash has got Ben Affleck's Batman in it. Shazam is referring to the Justice League. Aquaman has Ben Affleck's Batman in it, in addition to Aquaman. Now, the Flash is a Justice League member. Ben Affleck's a Justice League leader. Aquaman's Justice League leader. And so those are the Justice League movies. But Shazam is referring to the Justice League as well. And Shazam is a separate character away from the Justice League. He never met the Justice League, right? So Black Adam has to interface with the Justice League from the get-go. From the get-go. And David Zayas was like, no, we've got to have Superman in there. We got to have Superman in there. And not only Superman, he needs to have the Justice League, because Justice League's for him. Meaning, not necessarily the characters, but Superman on a Justice League mission or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? So, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say where the former regime was not about Justice League. They were anti-Justice League. They were anti-SnyderVerse. That's what Mikey Sutton and Sil Abdul have been saying all along, and they had the scoops on it. They just don't have the actual confirmation in reality. But the direction is the Justice League. All roads lead back to a Justice League movie. That's what you're going to get. That's where they're going. It's supposed to be a Blue Beetle movie or something like that coming out. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys. But in spite of all that, we restore the SnyderVerse is what we keep on hashtagging. Do not stop. Keep relentless at it. No matter what happens. If no Henry Cavill shows up in Black Adam, restore the SnyderVerse and beat down the walls, as they say. In the face of Armageddon, what? Never compromise. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace. And remember, God has given us. He didn't give us a spirit of fear. Let me read it. But a peace, love, and a sound mind. Here it is. For God has not given us a spirit of fear. Oh, it's not peace. But power. We got power, people. That's why these changes have happened, because of us. Power and of love and of a sound mind. You know, I was watching the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it's strange how the sentiments given by Silas Stone to his son, Victor Stone, is the same sentiments. He said, take your place with the great ones. Right? And then he said, fight. Discover. Love. The time is now. That's what he said. And that's basically the same sentiments. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but he's given us power, love, and a sound mind. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.